You ever feel, well, stuck? Like you're trapped in this endless loop of the same old habits, the same reactions, the same thoughts, day in and day out? It's an incredibly common feeling. But here's the thing, it is not a life sentence. What we're going to talk about today is the hard science that proves you can literally, physically, change your brain. And when you do that, you change your whole life. All right, so let's get right into it. The first thing we need to understand is why we get stuck in the first place. And it turns out, for most of our lives, we're not even the ones driving. We're running on a powerful, pre-written program, a kind of autopilot that works just underneath the surface. You know the drill, right? You wake up, you grab your phone, you scroll the same apps, you immediately start thinking about the same problems from yesterday, and you feel that familiar knot of stress or unhappiness start to form. Well, that whole cycle? That isn't just a bad mood. It's a deeply ingrained neurological reality. And get this. Scientists estimate that by the time we're about 35 years old, a whopping 95% of who we are is just a set of memorized behaviors, emotional reactions, and beliefs that run automatically in our subconscious mind. 95%. So when your little 5% conscious mind pipes up and says, hey, I want to change, well, you can see what it's up against. It's trying to fight a giant. No wonder it feels like such an uphill battle. I love this analogy from Dr. Joe Dispenza. Your brain is literally a record of the past. So the moment you start thinking about your problems, you're actually reaching into the past and pulling up old memories. Those memories trigger very real emotions, anxiety, sadness, frustration. And here's the craziest part. Your body doesn't know the difference between a real event and a memory. It starts producing the exact same chemicals, putting you right back in that past emotional state, forcing you to relive it again and again. Okay, so that tape recorder analogy might sound a little bleak, but, and this is a huge but, what if I told you that you can change the cassette? Your brain isn't hardwired. It's not permanent. And that's where we get into the truly revolutionary science that proves you have the power to change. For the longest time, the accepted scientific view was that once you became an adult, your brain was pretty much fixed. What you had was what you got. But then, a wave of incredible new research just blew that old belief out of the water. We now know for a fact that our brains are unbelievably adaptable and can change throughout our entire lives. And this incredible ability has a name: neuroplasticity. At its core, it just means that your brain can physically reorganize and rewire itself. So don't think of your brain as a fixed circuit board. Think of it more like a dynamic living city grid that's constantly building new roads and rerouting traffic based on what you do, what you learn, and even what you think. And just to be clear, this isn't some hot new fad. Nope. The idea has been around for over a century. It started with theories way back in 1890, then got its first real physical proof in the 60s, and by the 90s, the evidence was undeniable. Our adult brains absolutely can and do remap themselves. Okay, this is where it gets really good. We know the brain can change. So the billion-dollar question is, how do we actually do it? How do we become the architect of our own mind? Well, let's start with the inner world, with our thoughts and our emotions. One of the most powerful tools we have for this is mindfulness. And if you're skeptical, just follow the science. Look at this. The number of scientific studies on mindfulness has gone absolutely parabolic. It went from just a couple of studies in the late 90s to hundreds of them a decade later. And there's a really simple reason for that. It works. We can actually see the changes on fMRI brain scans. It's incredible. Researchers at Harvard found that after only about 8 weeks of mindfulness training, the amygdala, which you can think of as your brain's panic button, it literally calms down. It becomes less reactive. So what does that mean for you in your daily life? It means you get hijacked by stress and anger less often, even when you're not meditating. Now, this next point is a total game changer. We tend to think that we're just passive observers of reality, but we're not. Our brain is actively constructing our reality every second of the day. And that means the lens you use to look at the world literally shapes the world you experience, which means you can change your life without changing a single external thing. So how do you change that lens? Well, the very first step is just to notice when it's distorted. We all fall into these common thinking traps that keep us stuck. That all or nothing thinking, where you make one tiny mistake and suddenly you're a complete failure. Or the mental filter, where you could get 9 compliments and 1 criticism, and you obsess over that one negative thing. Just becoming aware of these patterns, just catching yourself in the act, that's a massive first step. And if you want a more concrete roadmap, Dr. Kathy Kolaut offers this brilliant 5-step process. I love this because it's not about fighting your subconscious, it's about working with it. It starts with being humble enough to listen to your own resistance. Then you get specific, and I love this part, you interview your fear. From there, you ground yourself in your values, find proof that change is possible, and then lock in that new belief. All right, so we've worked on the internal landscape, but our actions, our habits, our environment, everything in our outer world is just as crucial for building that new brain. So every single habit you have, good, bad, or neutral, runs on a simple and incredibly powerful neurological loop. First, there's a cue, which is the trigger. Then comes the routine, which is the behavior itself. And finally, there's the reward, which is the little hit of satisfaction that tells your brain, hey, let's do that again. Understanding this 3-part loop, it's the secret to changing almost anything. And once you understand the loop, you can start to strategically hack it. Want to build a good habit? Make the cue impossible to miss. Put your running shoes right by the door. Want to break a bad habit? The key is to disrupt that loop. You can try to avoid the cue, or even better, keep the cue and the reward, but just replace the routine with something healthy. And beyond just hacking habits, you can actively give your brain a workout. Engaging in new and challenging activities is like fertilizer for your neurons. Things like learning a language or an instrument, creating art, traveling somewhere new. Anything that pushes you out of your comfort zone forces your brain to build new pathways and get stronger. And of course, let's not forget good old-fashioned physical exercise. So what's the magic number? The CDC recommends at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise a week. That's really the sweet spot to boost all those amazing compounds that help your brain cells grow and improve your memory and focus. So we've looked at the problem, that feeling of being stuck on autopilot. We've explored the incredible science of neuroplasticity that proves change is possible. And we've walked through the tools for rewiring both your inner and outer worlds. So it really all comes down to this one last thing. Here's the bottom line I want to leave you with. Neuroplasticity isn't just some cool science fact. It is your biological superpower. It's your birthright. Your brain is not just able to change, it is designed to change. You are the architect of your mind. So the only question left to ask is, what new connection will you choose to build first?